Listen closely. This isn't just another story. It's your story. They moved in the dark, whispered behind closed doors, pulled the strings of a world they thought you'd never see. They built an empire on deception, erased the ones who dared to challenge them, and rewrote the rules to make sure you never had a chance. But here you are, still standing, still fighting, still refusing to be erased. They tried to bury you, but the truth doesn't stay buried. Now, the cracks are forming. The walls they built to contain their secrets are starting to shake. The ones who swore allegiance to their lies are turning, breaking, confessing. The truth they feared the most, is you. For years they told you that you were alone, that you were crazy, that you were fighting a battle you couldn't win. But you were never alone. You are the storm they never saw coming. You are the fire that refuses to die. Every move they made to destroy you only made you stronger. And now their time is up. This is the moment where everything changes. The world they built is crumbling, and you are still here, unstoppable, unshaken, unbreakable. For whatever is hidden is meant to be disclosed, and whatever is concealed is meant to be brought out into the open. Mark 4:22. They thought the truth could stay buried, that if they pushed it deep enough, locked it behind enough doors, and silenced enough voices, it would disappear forever. They were wrong, because truth is a living thing. It breathes, it waits, and when the time is right, it rises. Across the dimly lit room, the informant trembles, not from fear, but from the weight of what he carries. His breath is unsteady, his hands shake, but the words won't stop. He isn't just talking, he's confessing. Every name, every deal, every betrayal pours out like water breaking through a dam. They tried to contain it, to stop it before it could spread. But what started as a single crack has become a flood. The empire they built on silence is collapsing. Every carefully crafted lie, every concealed crime, every whisper in the dark has now been etched into records they can't erase. Their past, the one they swore was erased, the one they paid fortunes to keep hidden, was never really gone. It lingered in forgotten corners, buried in ledgers they thought had been destroyed, stored in emails they assumed were wiped clean, whispered in conversations they believed no one had heard. But someone was always listening. And now, the reckoning is here. The web they spun so meticulously, the system they created to keep themselves untouchable, is falling apart. One name leads to another. One confession connects to the next. What was once a puzzle missing too many pieces is now complete. And the picture it forms is damning. The past always leaves footprints, and now every single one is being retraced. They thought they could buy silence, but some things are too heavy to carry alone. Some men crack under pressure, some seek redemption, some just want revenge. But it doesn't matter why, because the truth doesn't need a reason to rise. And now that it's out, there's no stopping it. They moved as if the rules never applied to them, a league above consequence, until now. Behind bolted doors, desperation festers. Former allies, now cornered, trade secrets for survival. A web once held together by fear begins to snap, strand by strand, under the weight of its own deceit. Every whispered conversation is now evidence, every loyal confidant a potential betrayer. The walls they built to keep their secrets hidden are no longer barriers, but mirrors reflecting their downfall. And at the summit of this crumbling hierarchy, those who once commanded fear now sit in it, watching their calls ignored, their influence dwindle, their empire rot from within. Their past misdeeds were once buried beneath wealth and power. But the ground beneath them is shifting, and no fortress can stand against the weight of undeniable truth. The ones being named aren't mere foot soldiers. These aren't nameless figures in a tangled conspiracy. These are the architects, the silent orchestrators who shaped the very framework of power. They dictated policy from the shadows, twisted economies to their will, sculpted entire industries like clay. Their reach extended into places no one dared question, their hands shaping the fates of millions with invisible strings. Their arrogance became their undoing. They assumed immunity, convinced that their sins would dissolve into obscurity. But arrogance leads to miscalculation. They left trails, subtle, scattered, but real. And now, those cracks have split wide open, exposing the rot beneath. The pillars of their empire crumble as names are dragged into daylight. Executives who siphoned fortunes in plain sight. Lawmakers who bartered integrity for power. Enforcers who buried evidence. Voices that once shaped public perception, now caught in their own deception. Every lie they wove, every safeguard they trusted, now turns against them. Because the machine they built to control is breaking, and this time, they are the ones being dismantled. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. They built their world on deception, stacking lie upon lie, like a house of cards in the wind. But the truth always comes knocking. It doesn't matter how many walls they built, how many vaults they locked, how many people they silenced, because what is done in the dark will always be dragged into the light. That's the law of the universe, the law of the divine, the law that no man can outrun. At first, they thought they were untouchable. They strutted through their kingdoms, convinced that wealth was their armor and influence was their sword. They laughed in the face of justice, sneered at the idea of consequences. They were so high up in their towers that they believed they had rewritten the rules of fate itself. But arrogance always writes its own downfall. The first crack was small, so small they ignored it. A whisper in the wind, a flicker in the darkness. Just another man, another desperate soul looking for salvation. But then the fractures spread. A second voice, a third, then a flood. Different people, different corners of the world, all telling the same undeniable truth. And suddenly, what was once unshakable began to tremble. The fear started slow, like a cold draft slipping through the cracks of a locked door. But soon, it was pressing in from all sides. Meetings were held in secret. Plans scrambled in the dead of night. Phones lit up with desperate calls, voices hushed with urgency, coded words spoken in panic. They thought they had control, until control started slipping right through their fingers. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. They had spent years, decades, crafting their reality, bending the world to their will, silencing those who saw too much. They had written the script, played the part, convinced themselves that the ending would always be in their favor. But they never saw you coming, because the story was never really theirs to write. This battle was won long before they ever knew it had begun. This war was decided not in their boardrooms, not in their back rooms, but in the heavens. They thought they had buried the truth, but truth doesn't stay buried. It rises, it fights, and in the end, it always wins. Now, the weight of the inevitable presses against them. Their fortress is failing. Their masks are slipping. Their kingdom is burning. The same voices they silenced are now shouting their names. The very people they used, discarded, left behind. They are the ones carrying the fire. They never planned for this. They never thought the day would come, but now it's here. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. The ones who cleaned their messes, covered their tracks, and made problems disappear were now scrambling for their own survival. Files vanished, servers were wiped, accounts drained in a last-ditch effort to erase their footprints. But the past has a way of refusing to stay buried. Every deleted record still had a shadow. Every secret deal left breadcrumbs. And then, the first domino fell. It sent a shockwave through the ranks. Someone high up, someone they swore would never break, shattered under the weight of irrefutable proof. Panic spread like wildfire. Legal teams raced to rewrite defenses. Spin doctors tried to reshape the narrative, but the damage was irreversible. One voice became two, two became 10, and soon the dam they thought unbreakable had collapsed entirely. The names emerging weren't just small players. These were the trusted ones, the architects of their empire, the ones who held the deepest secrets. And now, they were all talking. The unraveling was no longer a slow erosion. It was a free-fall. Confessions stacked up, connections became undeniable, and the carefully constructed walls of deception crumbled under their own weight. They tried to slow the descent. Assets moved, loose ends cut, contingency plans activated. Some disappeared into the night, shifting their wealth, severing ties, trying to vanish before the wave hit. Others reached out to old contacts, hoping for protection, for escape, but no one wanted to be dragged down with them. The ones who had once ruled through control and coercion now found their weapons useless. Desperation crept in. The once certain future, now a void. A man who had spent his life untouchable now finds himself out of time, out of moves, out of allies. The ground beneath him isn't just shaking, it's giving way entirely. The empire built on deception is dust in the wind, and there is no rebuilding what has already collapsed. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. John 10:10. They never just wanted to stop you. No, stopping wasn't enough. They wanted you erased. They wanted every trace of your existence wiped from history, your impact undone, your voice lost in the wind. Not just broken, forgotten. Because the greatest fear of those who build their power on lies is not exposure, it's resistance. It's the one voice that won't be silenced, the one light that won't go out, the one flame that refuses to be snuffed out. That flame is you. At first, it was quiet, a door that didn't open, a conversation that ended too soon, a chance that slipped through your fingers before you even knew it was there. They studied you, watched how you moved, tested the limits of your faith, your endurance. They wanted to know what it would take to break you. When shutting doors wasn't enough, they went further. They made sure every road you walked was filled with detours, delays, and dead ends. They turned your victories into illusions, setting you up just to tear you down again. They made you question what was real, who you could trust, whether you were even meant to keep fighting. Because the real war was never outside of you. It was in your mind. They didn't need to lay a hand on you if they could make you doubt yourself. They didn't need to steal from you if they could make you sabotage your own success. They just needed to plant the seed of fear, of exhaustion, of helplessness, and let it grow. They reshaped the story, rewrote history, twisted perception, until even the truth felt like a lie. They whispered that you were the problem, that you were reaching too high, fighting too hard, pushing where you didn't belong, that you were imagining it all. And then when you still wouldn't bow, they came for what held you up: your stability, your resources, your foundation. Money drained, businesses collapsed, deals fell apart before the ink was dry. People who once swore loyalty vanished overnight. The very ground beneath your feet felt like it was shifting, crumbling, dragging you down with it. It was never bad luck. It was never coincidence. It was war. But here's the thing about war. It doesn't end until one side surrenders. And you didn't. Because God never called you to an easy road. He never promised that the fire wouldn't come, only that you would not burn. He never said the waters wouldn't rise, only that you would not drown. You are here for a reason. If you feel the call, answer it. Click join to unlock exclusive content, deep insights, and a powerful community. This isn't just a membership, it's an awakening. Step into your divine purpose. Join the chosen. And here you stand, not erased, not broken, not forgotten. Everything they took is coming back. Not just your power, not just your position, but your clarity, your voice, your authority. They thought they could rewrite your story, but they forgot who the true author is. And let me tell you, this chapter isn't over yet. They operated under the illusion that control was their birthright, that every move was predictable, every outcome preordained. They believed manipulation was their advantage, never realizing they were walking into a storm they couldn't see. Their power was in force. The counter was in patience. They acted in arrogance. The counter was in silence. Every hit they landed, every obstacle they threw, only added to the lessons being learned. Setbacks sharpened instincts. Isolation did not weaken, it refined. They miscalculated the most crucial factor: endurance. They played a game of immediate wins, never once considering the long arc of strategy. They thought their grip was ironclad, but the very structures they depended on are shifting beneath them. The ones they trusted are seeking escape routes. The loyalists are signing deals, and the systems they built to keep others out are now shutting them in. Every deception they wove is now tangled around their own feet. The weight of their own legacy is the thing pulling them under. This was never about who had control in the moment. It was about who could withstand the fire, who could walk through the destruction and emerge unbroken. And when everything settles, when the dust clears, the ones left standing will not be the ones who relied on power. It will be the ones who refuse to fall. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. Genesis 4:7. They built walls to keep the truth out. They thought they could lock it away, bury it deep, erase every trace. But truth is like a seed. It doesn't die in the darkness, it takes root. And when the season is right, it bursts forth. No amount of stone, no amount of steel, no amount of power can stop what was always meant to come to light. At first, it was just a crack in their foundation, a whisper too quiet to notice, a detail too small to seem important. They ignored it, dismissed it, thinking their fortress was strong enough to withstand time itself. But a single crack is all it takes for the flood to begin. A drop turns into a stream into a river, and now, the dam has broken. The walls that were meant to protect them have become their prison. The silence they forced on others has been shattered. What was once a carefully guarded secret is now spoken in trembling voices, confessed in cold rooms under the harsh light of truth. The same voices they silenced are now painting a picture, clear, undeniable, and damning. A story they cannot escape. They thought they had destroyed the evidence, but the past leaves footprints. Paper trails they believed were gone, phone records they swore had been erased, transactions hidden under layers of deception. All of it is rising to the surface. A single misplaced document, an overlooked detail, an anonymous recording. It only takes one thread to unravel everything. Fear was their greatest weapon, but fear is fickle. It bends, it shifts, and now it has turned against them. Those who once swore loyalty are speaking. Those who once kept their secrets are cutting deals. Some out of desperation, some out of revenge. But the truth doesn't care why. It only cares that it's finally free. They thought they could control the narrative, that they could rewrite the story to suit their needs. But they forgot one thing. The author of truth doesn't need their permission to reveal what was always there. And now, they aren't the ones holding the pen. This isn't just a bad day. This isn't just an unfortunate turn of events. This is judgment. The walls they trusted have betrayed them. The doors they locked have been flung open. The fortress they built is collapsing from the inside out. And the worst part? They know there's no escape, no rewriting, no hiding, no way out. They tried to bury the truth, but the grave was never deep enough. The descent is never instant. It starts in the background, in quiet whispers and unnoticed shifts. A name surfaces in a report. A meeting ends with an uneasy silence. Then, like dominoes, everything collapses. The foundation cracks. The ones who once moved in lockstep start falling away. Some flee, some betray, some simply disappear. Those who once gave orders now wait for calls that never come. They were the ones who controlled the game. Until the board flipped. The forces they used as shields now refuse to answer. The powerful allies who once protected them now sever ties, unwilling to be dragged down alongside them. Loyalty is the first thing to go when the fire spreads. They built their empire on the illusion of invincibility, certain that the right connections, the right pressure, the right amount of money could keep them untouchable. But illusions shatter, and when they do, there's no putting them back together. The reckoning isn't distant, it's already at the door. The names they swore would never be spoken are now headlines. The transactions they buried are now open ledgers. The lies they built their power on have collapsed under the weight of unrelenting truth. They aren't just losing influence, they're losing everything. No more exits, no more safety nets, no more control. They spent their lives rewriting the rules, convinced they could shape reality itself. But reality has no master. It never forgets, it never erases, and it never lets them walk away. The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. They ran the world from the shadows, invisible hands, pulling every string, playing the game from behind the curtain. They moved like kings, untouched, unchallenged, convinced their dominion would last forever. But pride always comes before the fall. For years, they sculpted reality itself, rewriting history, silencing the voices that stood in their way, shifting the pieces to always land in their favor. They were the architects of deception, believing that control was their birthright, that the rules didn't apply to them, that no matter what, they would always have the final move. But control is only control when the world believes in it. And now, no one believes anymore. The cracks started small. A whisper here, a defection there, a single name in a report, a transaction that couldn't be explained. At first they laughed it off, waved it away, But one crack in the foundation was all it took. The structure they built wasn't as indestructible as they thought. And once the collapse begins, there is no stopping it. Their first instinct is flight. The same people who once declared themselves untouchable are now running. Private jets are fueled, back exits are mapped, coded calls are being made in hushed voices. They always had an escape plan, always had a door left open just in case. But what happens when every exit is blocked? The men who once controlled entire industries now find their money frozen, their assets seized, their contacts unwilling to take their calls. The offshore accounts they hid behind, exposed. The safe houses they thought were untouchable, compromised. They reach out to their protectors, the ones who once guarded their secrets, only to be met with silence. They thought power was permanent. They thought they had built something that could never be torn down. But power is only as strong as the people who uphold it. And now, one by one, those people are walking away. Some still try to fight. They push out statements, fabricate distractions, manufacture chaos. They attempt to buy time, throwing money at a fire that refuses to be extinguished. They threaten, they bribe, they twist the story in every direction. But nothing works, because fear is no longer on their side. Once, people bowed in submission. Now, they stand in defiance. Once, they silenced the truth. Now the truth is all that remains. This isn't just an unfortunate turn of events. This isn't a setback. This is the end. No more hidden corridors. No more secret meetings. No more carefully laid plans unfolding in their favor. The game is over, and they lost. Some believe they can still claw their way back. They reach out, throwing money at problems that can't be bought anymore. They whisper threats into empty air, but the weight behind their words has disappeared. The enforcers who once carried out their orders have gone silent, captured, missing, or too afraid to be seen. The allies they once commanded now erase their names from memory, pretending the association never existed. No one is answering. No one is coming to rescue them. Others scramble to shift the blame, frantically rewriting their own stories. They flood the airwaves with denials, frame themselves as the victims of conspiracy, twist the facts into tangled knots. They burn their own people as offerings, hoping a sacrifice will spare them. But the world isn't listening. The truth is too clear, too overwhelming to distort. Every deflection falls flat. Every cover story crumbles. This is no temporary crisis. No clever maneuver will undo what's already been set in motion. The structure they built so carefully, so deliberately, is turning to ash before their eyes. This isn't just another obstacle to overcome. This isn't another scheme to outlast. This is the reckoning they never believed would come. No more backroom deals, no more secret alliances, no more control. The illusion is shattered, and all that's left is the ruin of an empire that thought itself eternal. Now all they can do is watch as it burns to the ground. The balance is shifting. For too long, they clutched power with iron fists, carving their dominion from deception, ruling unseen, pulling the strings of a world they believed was theirs to command. They dictated who thrived and who withered, who spoke and who was silenced, tilting the scales to serve their own ends. They rigged the system, confident it would never turn against them. But nothing lasts forever. The illusion they built, the fortress of secrecy, the unchecked authority, the ability to erase opposition without consequence, has collapsed. The one thing they valued above all else, the control they wielded so effortlessly, has slipped through their fingers. And those they sought to erase, they never vanished. They never faltered. They endured. Laughed at, dismissed, cast into the shadows, forced to question their own reality, but never broken. They were never alone, even when the world made them feel otherwise. They didn't fall. They waited, they adapted, and now they rise. What was stolen is being reclaimed. Not just wealth, not just influence, but something greater. The freedom to exist without fear, to create without restriction, to speak without the weight of suppression. The shackles once meant to restrain are now worn by those who forged them. The air hums with change, unstoppable, irreversible. The falsehoods that once dictated reality are unraveling, unable to stand beneath the crushing weight of undeniable truth. The fear that once held them in power now gnaws at their own heels, turning against them, consuming the last remnants of their illusion. Desperation lingers in their final moves, scrambling to reconstruct what has already turned to dust, twisting narratives, grasping at control that no longer exists. But the spell is broken, the deception laid bare. They built their dominion on borrowed time, and the clock has struck its final hour. The tide has turned, the long night has ended, and as the last echoes of their rule fade into nothing, a new dawn breaks, unstoppable, unchallenged, undeniable.